this is Kate at the Library of Whispers. Now I really love history apps, and this is one of my favourites. It's called London Streets, and the developer is Bath Spa University. I've had it on my iPad for quite a while, and I'll put a link into that if you would like to check the app out yourself. It's a free app, and I'm not being sponsored, by the way. I just like it, and I thought we would have a look together. So I've got my pencil here, and I'm going to use that to take a look. So in this map there is a street explorer, some maps to explore, curios, an about section and a help section. So if I just click onto the maps, it says here, loading old maps of London. This will take a few seconds. There are 5 maps to explore. Roman London, 1563. The late 16th century. The mid 18th century and 1827. Zoom and pan the maps with your fingers. Double tap the screen to move between maps. So I'm just gonna. So this is the Roman map. You can see the Thames here. And then here we have London in the time of Elizabeth I. This is circa 1690, so you can see the city becoming much more built up. And then the mid-18th century, all the streets and new buildings. 1827. And back to Roman London. Now the other nice thing is you can St Andrew by the Wardrobe is Wren's last city church. It originally dates back to the time of Baynard's Castle, which stood near here. See Castle Baynard Street. King Edward III moved his robes nearby, and St Andrews became known for its connection with this great wardrobe. Shakespeare worked close by at the Blackfriars Theatre and had a house in nearby Island Yard. So that's the church. Okay, let's go back. So we'll go to Altus Gate, named after one of the original city gates which once stood here. Let's find out a bit more. Now we can see this is the area of Altus Gate. There's St Paul's Cathedral, Smithfield, there used to be, or maybe there still is a market there, I'm not sure. There's London Wall. Okay, Altus Gate. Altus Gate was one of the earliest openings through the city wall, being in existence in 1243, but is less ancient than Bishopsgate, which is identified as one of the oldest and first of the city gates. The Altus Gate was demolished in 1761. Alongside Altus Gate is Postman's Park, named after the former main London postal sorting office in King Edward Street. It contains the memorial to heroic self-sacrifice, built in 1900 by Victorian painter and philanthropist G.F. Watts, 1817 to 1904. Specially commissioned Royal Dalton tiles touchingly commemorate heroic men and women who gave their lives selflessly attempting to save others. A plaque marks the site of the Moravian meeting room, where John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, reaffirmed his faith in 1738. And that is the Altus Gate. It's quite a grand looking thing. Okay. Aldgate. Aldgate is the most easterly gate through the old London Wall. Here it is on the map. Just there. There is Tower as his family residence, as an administrative base, and as somewhere he could entertain important guests, including possibly the king himself. Cromwell's house played an important role in his own downfall and in the wider fate of the friary. So this picture down here, this is Austin Friars in the 1550s, as depicted by the 1550 copper plate map of London. Okay. Bennetts Hill, named after Wren's nearby church of St. Bennet. Here is Bennetts Hill, just adjacent to Addle Street. Here's the Thames, just adjacent to Addle Hill. Here is the Thames, Paul's Wharf, and St. Paul's Church. Let's find out about it. Bennetts Hill. Former names include St. Bennetts Hill and St. Bennet's Lane. There has been a church here since 1111, taking its name from its dedication to St. Benedict, an Italian saint and founder of the order of Benedictine monks. The Wren Church of St. Bennett's that now stands here is situated opposite the College of Arms, somewhat isolated by the modern roads. It is one of only 4 churches in the city that somehow escaped damage during the Blitz of World War II, and is unusual in largely being as Wren designed it. The church is now used for services in Welsh, although it appears to be unused much of the time. Since 1556 it has been the church of the College of Arms, and numerous of its officers of arms have been buried here. A little westwards was once the Watergate of Baynard's Castle, referenced in various biographies of both Queen Anne Boleyn and Lady Jane Grey. St. Bennett's Church can be found on a little square of its own, a victim of the local road planning. There we have it. Next, Billingsgate. The old Billingsgate was once home to the largest fish market in the world. And it isn't actually in the Thames, although it's kind of here. There's London Bridge, or the old London Bridge. Billingsgate was an artificial harbour and dock, once connected with an owner named Belling or Billing. A fish market was established here in very early times, being mentioned in a proclamation of 1297 as a landing stage not only for fish but also for other market produce. The coarse language of London fishmongers made Billingsgate a byword for crude or vulgar language. In 1982, the fish market was relocated to a new site on the Isle of Dogs, close to Canary Wharf. Bishopsgate. This gate may have been one of the earliest original gates of the City of London and was rebuilt by one of the London bishops. In the Domesday Book of 1086, the gate is called Porta Episcopi, and in the 12th century, Bishop's Gate. Some historians believe that the gate was named after Bishop Erkenwald, who lived and flourished in AD 675 and was a son of Offa, King of Mercia. However, it seems likely that the name Bishopsgate was only adopted in the 12th century when the old city wall was being rebuilt. The last gate was demolished in 1760. The site of the gate is marked by a stone bishop's mitre, located high up on a building at Bishopsgate Junction with Wormwood Street. The house of Sir Paul Pindar, 1565 to 1650, once stood on Bishopsgate. Pindar was a merchant and an ambassador for King James I of England to the Ottoman Empire. In the 18th century, Sir Paul Pindar's house had the privilege of becoming a tavern, the Sir Paul Pindar's Head, although it was later demolished to make way for the expansion of Liverpool Street Station in 1890. Its frontage is preserved in the Victoria and Albert Museum. So here is an illustration of the Bishopsgate. Okay, and next we have Blackfriars Bridge. Blackfriars Bridge is named after the Blackfriars monastery that once stood here on the north side of the Thames. Here it is, Blackfriars Bridge. Of course, this is the Thames. That's St. Paul's Pier. The Blackfriars Monastery stood on the northern side of the River Thames and dated from 1276, giving the name Blackfriars to the area. The first Blackfriars Bridge was a toll bridge, begun in 1760 and opened for foot passengers in 1766 and vehicles in 1769. It was only the third bridge over the Thames in central London, adding to London Bridge and the more recent Westminster Bridge. It was formerly meant to be called William Pitt Bridge after the Prime Minister, William Pitt the Elder, but its informal name took hold instead. The location was chosen since the wharves around where the River Fleet met the Thames had fallen into disuse, and the bridge would be able to intercept the northern bank of the Thames without causing major disruption to the area. The road leading northwards to Ludgate Circus, New Bridge Street, also takes its name from the development of Blackfriars Bridge. Building of the present bridge began in 1865 and completed in 1870. It was widened in 1897 to take trams across to South London. The piers of the bridge contain carvings of water birds. On the east, the carvings show marine life and seabirds, whilst on the west they show freshwater birds. These representations aim to capture where sea meets river. The Blackfriars pub is near the northern end of the bridge, an historic Art Nouveau Grade 2 pub built in 1905 on the site of the Dominican Friary. The architect was Herbert Fuller Clark and the artist Henry Poole, both part of the arts and crafts movement. The interior is well worth a visit. Images of friars feature significantly around the pub in sculptures, mosaics and reliefs. The pub was saved from demolition by a campaign led by Sir John Betjeman, the Poet Laureate. Underneath the northern end of the current bridge, you can see the outlet for the old River Fleet, now buried and largely forgotten beneath London streets. There we go. Bleeding Heart Yard was probably named after a 16th century pub called the Bleeding Heart. Okay, let's see where it is. Here it is. So we have Holborn all along here, and this is Greyfriars Lane and Leather Lane, Baldwin's Gardens, Charles Street, Field Lane, Chick Lane. Let's find out about Bleeding Heart Yard. The original inn sign, after which Bleeding Heart Yard is reputed to take its name, dated back to the Reformation and showed the heart of Queen Bloody Mary, pierced by 5 swords. This whole area was once the garden to the nearby residence of the Bishop of Ely in Ely Place. It was given to Sir Christopher Hatton by Elizabeth I in 1581, and his name survives in the nearby Hatton Garden. The yard features in Little Dorrit, the Charles Dickens novel, where it is home to the Plornish family. It had some relish of ancient greatness about it. It was inhabited by poor people who set up their rest among its faded glories, as Arabs of the desert pitch their tents among the fallen stones of the pyramids. But there was a family sentimental feeling prevalent in the yard that it had a character. That's a quote by Charles Dickens. Bleeding Heart Yard also appeared in Richard Barham's The Ingoldsby Legends, a collection of poems and stories from 1837. In The Housewarming, a legend of Bleeding Heart Yard, Barham writes about how Lady Hatton, wife of Sir Christopher Hatton, made a pact with the devil in return for wealth, a position in society, and a fine mansion in Holborn. During the subsequent housewarming, the devil dances with her before tearing out her heart. Rather than putting a downer on the evening, her heart is found in the yard the following morning, still beating. Nearby is Ye Old Mitre Pub, built in 1546 and extended in 1782. Henry VIII was married in St. Ethelfrieda's Church nearby, and his daughter, Queen Elizabeth, is said to have danced around the cherry tree at the pub's door with Sir Christopher Hatton. estates of bakers, that no baker shall sell bread before his oven, but only in the market of his lordship the king. This place was an open market in 1302 for the bakers of Bromley and Stratford-le-Bow, who were forbidden to sell bread in their shops or homes. There is a plaque to the poet and author John Milton, who was born in Bread Street in December 1608. Best known as the author of Paradise Lost, Milton was also a civil servant in the government of Oliver Cromwell. Another poet, John Donne, was also born in Bread Street, and nearby was the famous Elizabethan era Mermaid Tavern, where many of the Elizabethan era's most prominent literary figures used to meet for their monthly Friday drinking club. There's the plaque for John Milton. Buckingham Palace, formerly Buckingham House and the residence of the Duke of Buckingham. Let's see where it is on the map. Here it is. Here are the gardens at the back. Now, I think this is now the Mall along here in the front. Yeah. There's Rosamond's Pond and James Street. Buckingham Palace is of course the London residence and principal workplace of the monarchy of the United Kingdom. In the Middle Ages, the site was part of the manor of Ebury, also called Ea. The marshy ground was watered by the River Tyburn, which still flows below the courtyard and south wing of the palace. The house, which forms the core of the current palace, was built for the first Duke of Buckingham and Normanby in 1703. Buckingham House was eventually sold by Buckingham's descendant, Sir Charles Sheffield, in 1761 to George III. Buckingham Palace became the principal royal residence only in 1837 on the accession of Queen Victoria. She became the first monarch to reside there since her predecessor, William IV, died before its completion. And this is a picture of Buckingham Palace in 1837. Bucklespring. The 13th century Buckerals were a leading city family and their residence, Buckeralsbury, once stood here, which is not dissimilar, a name to a place in Hobbiton. Bucklebury Ferry. Here it is. Okay, so it's just below Cheapside. Here is the Thames. And this is Budge Row, Watling Street, Lombard Street, Cornhill, Threadneedle Street, Throgmorton Street, Grace Church Street, Bishopsgate Street, Bucklesbury. The name can be traced as far back as 1104. In the 13th century, the Buckerall family was one of the leading city families. Andrew Buckerall held the position of mayor from 1231 to smell like Bucklesbury doesn't seem like so much of a compliment. Nearby was once the former home of Sir Thomas More, an English lawyer, scholar, writer, Member of Parliament and Chancellor in the reign of Henry VIII. He was executed at the Tower of London for refusing to recognise the King's divorce and the English Church's break with Rome. Still, here, however, is one of Rennes's finest churches, St. Stephen. Cannon Street. The name dates back to the 12th century from the candle makers who once traded here. Here is Cannon Street, just south of Lombard Street and north of Thames Street. Cheapside, Gracechurch Street. Here is the old London Bridge. Cannon Street, originally known in 1190 as Candle Rythe Street, from candle and Rythe, a candle maker, since this was the street of the candle makers or wax chandlers, an important vocation in the age before gas or electric lighting. The name candlewick was being used by 1285, later becoming canwick. Over time this mutated into canning and then of course cannon. Wax chandlers had their livery hall in Dowgate Hill off Cannon Street, where a later hall still stands. The older name also still survives in the Candlewick ward. The original Cannon Street was much shorter than the road that exists today, being extended in the Victorian era to ease traffic congestion in other city streets. Harold Clun, in The Face of London, 1932, states that the clearance of this crowded area was at that time regarded as one of the greatest metropolitan improvements since the Great Fire of London. In 1852, during the construction of the extended Cannon Street, Clun describes how workmen discovered a Roman tessellated pavement at a depth of nearly 13 feet below the surface. The findings were mingled with horns, bones, teeth and tusks of boars, oxen, goats and other animals, as well as fragments of tiles, urns and pottery of various descriptions. Cannon Street is home to the historic London Stone, which can be found across the road from the railway station. Hidden behind a grating in the shop opposite, it's only a small remnant of what was once a much larger object that has stood over many centuries on the south side of the street. Some claim this stone is ancient and the means by which London acquired its power and wealth. It's likely to date back to at least Roman or Anglo-Saxon times, and an inscription on it makes the claim that its origin and purpose are unknown, but in 1188 there was a reference to Henry, son of Aylwin, de London Stane, subsequently Lord Mayor of London. Shakespeare mentions it in Henry VI when Jack Cadet strikes it with his staff exclaims, "Now is Mortimer lord of this city, and here, sitting upon London stone, I charge and command that of the city's cost, the Bissing conduit run nothing but claret wine for this first year of our reign." The historian William Camden, 1551 to 1623, believed that this was the milestone from which distances were calculated on the main roads in Roman times, and there was a similar stone in the Forum in Rome. And here's what looks like a Victorian policeman in front of the stone. There's the grating in front of it. Court Lane. Court Lane, named either after a former owner of property here or because of the carter's stables. Here it is. There's St. Paul's Church, Thames. Originally named Carter Street in 1295 and later Carteris Lane. By 1653, the western part was known as Shoemaker's Row. This lasted until 1848, when it became Shoemaker's Lane. In 1866, it was renamed Carter Lane. Its original name may be a relic of a former owner of property, or because carmen or carters had their stables in the area. At one time, it was divided into Great and Little Carter Lane, but this was abolished by the Metropolitan Board of Works in 1866. At the former Hart's Horn public house in Carter Lane, the Gunpowder Plot conspirators, including Guy Fawkes, used to hold their clandestine meetings. It is referenced in a text from 1605. The Competition House, whereunto all this crew resorted during their practice, was the Hart's Horn in Carter Lane. The Cockpit pub can be found on St. Andrew's Hill and the junction of Island Yard. A pub has been here since the 16th century, and the Cockpit takes its name from its days as a major venue for cockfights, which was stopped in 1849. In Shakespeare's day, Island Yard was the main entrance to the long demolished Blackfriars Monastery, shown here. Castle Baynard Street, a relatively recent street named after a castle owned by one of the followers of William the Conqueror. Here it is. Here is the Thames. Near here once stood Castle Baynard, which took its name from Ralph Baynard, one of William the Conqueror's followers. It was built where the old Roman walls of the city and the River Fleet met the Thames. This Norman fortification was demolished by King John in 1213. It was replaced around a century or so later by a medieval palace built slightly to the southeast, with Walter Besant stating that there was no house It's hard to imagine how impressive it must have been, given the ugly monstrosity called Baynard House that now occupies this site. It's worth visiting the old dock of Queen Hithe, where at low tide the remnants of an earlier wooden dock can still be seen in the waters of the Thames. A plaque near the dock commemorates the Anglo-Saxon resettlement of London, when in 886 King Alfred re-established a presence in the abandoned Roman city. At this place, a harbour and market were established by 899 to restore trade after the Viking invasions. Charing Cross, named after the Eleanor Cross that once stood here in the former hamlet of Charing. Here we have Charing Cross. This is the Royal Mews, Craven Street, and St Martin in the Fields, Villiers Street, Brewers Yard, Hungersford Market, and the Thames, Scotland Yard. Charing Cross is named after the Eleanor Cross, once situated here in the former hamlet of Charing. Until 1931, Charing Cross also referred to the top end of Whitehall between Great Scotland Yard and Trafalgar Square. Since 1675, the site of the cross has been marked by a statue of Charles I on a horse, a Victorian attempt at a nostalgic recreation of the medieval cross. The Queen Eleanor Memorial Cross is the edifice that now stands outside Charing Cross railway station. The name of the hamlet of Charing is believed to derive from the Old English word cheering, a reference to the nearby bend in the River Thames. The addition of cross to the area's name derives from when the Eleanor Cross was erected here in 1291 to 94 by Edward I as a memorial to his wife, Eleanor of Castile. It was placed between the former hamlet of Charing and the entrance to the Royal Mews of the Palace of Whitehall, roughly where Trafalgar Square is today. The wooden cross was destroyed in 1647 on the orders of Parliament during the Civil War. Since the mid-18th century, Charing Cross has been used as one of the reference points for measuring distances from London, together with London Stone in Cannon Street, Hickes Hall in Clerkenwell, and the doors of St Mary le Bow Church. The pillory at Charing Cross, as shown in an engraving from 1809. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, but we will come back to this lovely app of London streets, and next time we'll begin with Cheapside. This has been Kate at the Library of Whispers saying